there are three energy systems. Alactic, which is scientifically known as the ATP/creatine phosphate system. So this is when we take creatine as a supplement. This is the energy system that we're looking to build. This is the one that is our most powerful. We're lifting the heaviest weights, we're sprinting, we're throwing a punch or a kick. That's the energy system we're using for that specific action. Okay, the next energy system is the lactic system, which, if I were teaching a PhD level class, lactic and lactic acid has been, these are terms that have been used forever, albeit a little bit inappropriately. If this were a PhD level class, we'd be talking about hydrogen ions and all that bullshit. The reason I bring that up is you guys are smart guys. You look on the internet and stuff. You may see, oh, well, lactic acid isn't really this or that, and they're right. But for our purposes, all I need you to understand is that the lactic system is the one that if you were doing the incline and your legs are burning, and because your legs are working so hard, now you're getting out of breath, you may feel like you're getting nauseous, you're in that lactic system, okay? That's where you're training at. The lactic system relies primarily on carbohydrates. So the scientific name of it is actually the glycolytic system. And we're going to go into some of the more details here in a second. But this one is one of those where you're training very intensely. It's providing the fuel. So that burning feeling, a lot of people mistakenly think it's hindering them. That is actually your body's natural response of creating fuel through this energy system. The aerobic system, I call it your recovery system. So whether you're running a marathon and your heart rate is pretty steady and it's submaximal for a very long time, or you're asleep, okay? So it fuels low levels of intensity to zero intensity. The important thing to realize here is all three energy systems are at play at all times. So I just said if you're lifting your heaviest weight, that it's primarily your alactic system. If you're doing the incline, it's primarily your lactic system. If you're asleep, it's primarily your aerobic system, but there will be some alactic contribution. It may be less than 1%, I don't know, it's pretty low, but there is a contribution at all times from all three. So that's important to realize, because as we transition through, and I'm going to talk about how that works right now, you will have a blend of one energy system to the next. So when you see this 90%, just think I'm 90% sprint. I'm lifting 90% of my max. I can exert that for 5 to 10 seconds, okay, through that energy system. And I will tell you at right about 8 seconds, we see that the nervous system, which we're going to go into, actually starts to decrease its contribution, but we can maintain the energy output from this energy system for up to 5 to 10 seconds. You'll notice the rest interval is extremely long. You might say, Coach, I've never had you give me a 3 to 5 minute rest interval. And you're right, I never will, unless you're competing in like an Olympic lifting, strongman, or a powerlifting contest. The reason we don't do that is that's not specific to our jobs. We're willing to give up that last little hair of strength and power to gain some conditioning aspect, because that's more specific to being an operator. So alactic capacity, notice this one's power, this one's capacity. Now we're operating more 80 to 89%. So these percentages are relative. Okay, so if I want to train my alactic capacity, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to jump on the assault bike and I'm going to sprint my ass off for 30 seconds. I don't start at 80 to 89%. I start at 100, but as I fatigue after about this 10-second mark and I get to that 15-second mark, my relative intensity, in other words, at 15 seconds, I'm putting out a little bit less than I was at 0 seconds, or 1, 2, and 3 seconds. Does that make sense? Okay. So by the time I hit 15, 30 seconds, my relative intensity has gotten down to somewhere between 80 and 89%. Rest interval is 30 to 90 seconds. Well, you say that's a hell of a difference from the power. That's right, because what I'm trying to do is train that system that utilizes the creatine and the ATP, empty the tank, give it incomplete recovery, and then do it again. More incomplete recovery would be 30 seconds. That is the half-life of ATP creatine. Does everybody know what half-life means? It means if I empty the tank and I go from 100 to 0, at 30 seconds I've got 50% of my stores back. Okay? 3 minutes would be about full life, depending on the intensity and everything. So for alactic capacity, we don't ever allow full life. We go half to maybe 3/4, 2/3. Okay, then we empty the tank again because we're trying to increase capacity. So then lactic power, what I'm doing here is now I'm really trying to smoke the system. So I'm going all out for 30 to 90 seconds. So you get on the assault bike, we go 90 seconds as hard as you can. By the end, you're feeling that burn. You might be feeling a little nauseous. You're definitely breathing hard. The relative intensity has dropped now to 60 to 70%. So you're probably going to be somewhere in this zone from the 100% that you started the exercise at by the time you hit 90 seconds. All right. Rest intervals 1 to 1, 1 to 4. Okay, because again, we may go the longer time. So if it's, let's say it's a minute, that means I give you 4 minutes off to truly allow full recovery and then hammer you again. Okay, because what we're trying to do is get as much, when we're doing this, we're trying to get as much lactate into the muscle cells and tissues as possible, make it very uncomfortable, but then teach your body to overcome that feeling and continue going. Now lactic capacity on the flip side, if I'm going to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoke you for a longer period, 90 to 3 minutes, and then notice my rest interval, it may be a quarter of how long I take you. So if we go 3 minutes, I may only give you 1/4 of that time off, which is going to seem extremely short after a 3-minute go on the assault bike or the Jacob's ladder or something like that. And then I'm going to do it to you again. And there again, what we're trying to do is now we've already got the lactate high. It's only come down a little bit. Now we top it off again and really challenge your body to flush that stuff out and continue burning fuel in that energy system. Okay? So you see how we can manipulate, I'm going to get to aerobic in a second. We can manipulate within those two energy systems 4 different things to get 4 different training results. Okay? This is why it's so important when you do conditioning that you know you want to be. If I just go in and say, oh, I'm going to smoke myself, I have no idea what that means. But if you say to me, hey coach, I need to be able to go on ranger training, well, I know that you need to get lactic capacity. So that's where I'm gonna design a program. We're gonna get into that bit here a little bit more. I can design a program to get your muscle cells ready for what Ranger is going to do to you, or STS for that matter. Okay. Then the last system, the aerobic system, like I said, this is your recovery system. This is where anything over 3 minutes, and of course here at altitude, we know at 6,000 feet we have a 10% drag on us. So in other words, our VO2s are about roughly 10% lower here. VO2 is the maximal output of your aerobic system. It's about 10% lower here than it would be at sea level. Okay, but that's fine because if we improve our aerobic base at this height altitude, we still get that 10% back when we step off the plane down at Fort Hood. Cool? Makes sense? Okay, so that's going to be anything over 3 minutes. So that could be, if you want to run the Leadville 100, after the first 3 minutes, you're in the aerobic system almost exclusively the entire time. All right. So rest interval for this is going to be 1 to 1 or 1 to 3. So if I send you on like when we do our bay laps for the OFT test, I'll have guys run up to 10 laps around there, and then I'll rest them for 2 to 1 rest. So if it takes them 5 minutes to run those laps, they now get 10 minutes of rest. Because what I really want to do is make sure that next 5-minute bout is extremely high quality. Okay? Whereas up in this energy system, I'm just trying to smoke you over and over and over. Capacity and power, and the 2 different things are going to be what I'm looking for in terms of the body's ability to tolerate or recover. Okay? And also, we mentioned it a few times, the aerobic system is your recovery system. So when you recover from exercise to exercise, day to day, week to week, month to month, this is the system that helps you recover better. So, for example, if they actually did some studies on UFC fighters, and they found that at the championship level, a fighter needs a 55 VO2 max. Okay, anything above that doesn't necessarily make them perform any better, but if they're below that, they definitely perform worse. And the reason is they do a 5-minute round, and then they have 1 minute of downtime. During that 1 minute, that's when they're really maximizing that aerobic system to recover. So if you and I are fighting and we go balls to the wall for 5 minutes because you believe you're in better condition than I am, and we get out and bell rings, we go to our corners, we both sit down for the same 60 seconds. If you're in significantly better aerobic condition than I am, you're going to be better off in the start of the second than I am, because your energy bar, think video game, your energy bar went like this and mine went like that. Okay, so now you have a marked advantage on me in the second round. Okay, this can get extremely confusing, and I hope I did not confuse you. But just recognize that when we do conditioning stuff, we need to know what's the adaptation. Do I want it here, 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 or here? And then that's how we're going to design the program. But just going out and smoking yourself is probably going to be a mesh of a few things, and it's not going to really get you anything except a little bit of a gain wherever the chips may happen to fall based on your physiology. Cool? Next slide, please.
Hey, Coach, on this slide.
Yeah, go back, please.
Are there percentages, like, so I'm thinking like weight training versus like cardio training. So like, obviously in cardio training, 90 to 100% would be like max heart rate, like 200 beats per minute. Whereas like, I don't know, is this based off like?
This is more that relative intensity.
Okay.
So think of it like if I'm here and you and I we line up for a 100-meter dash, right? And we've got lunches for a week on the line. You're going to run 100% the whole time, right? And hopefully you're done probably just beyond that 10 seconds if it's 100 meters. Let's say it's a 40, so definitely you'll be done before the 10 seconds.
Okay.
You know, so we run a 40, and you're going to go 100% the whole way. So that means that's that energy system that you're using. Okay. So now if we run a 200, we'll definitely blast through this. Okay. And we're going to get into this this area here. Now, depending on how fast we are, you know, a good runner is going to be under 30 seconds. But let's say we're shitty runners and we're above 30 seconds, we might be getting some lactate production in the last few strides or whatever, and then immediately after that, we're going to get a big lactic jump. So try this sometime, whether it's on the incline. I feel it all the time on the incline because I do it as intervals. Try this sometime when you're doing intervals. Notice what your heart rate does as soon as you finish the work. It's going to spike. And the reason for that is your heart rate, or your heart is now pumping blood to get that lactate out of your cells faster. So let's say I'm going as hard as I can, and my heart rate's at 160. I stop. Within the first 5 to 10 seconds, I'll bet you my heart rate jumps to 165, 168, something like that. And then it starts to plummet. The better in shape I am, the quicker the spike, the quicker the drop. But it's going to spike to help clear out that lactate. Okay?